This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.
All right, we are back, and now we're going to switch gears here. We're going to talk to my man, Dan Leberfeld. Yeah, what's that? Is that a locker you're at? What are you, in a gym?
I'm at the Jets complex.
Like a decent locker room? Is that what the Jets have for a locker room?
No, this is this is an office by the press room, I think, for the catering squad.
Oh, okay. All right. So,
I couldn't do it in the press room because everybody's in the same room there.
Yeah, no. That's. I was just saying that's an ugly facility there that they've got going on there. I thought it was nicer than that. I thought it was kind of new. All that. By the way, I know Dolphin fans are going to hate for me to say this, but I thought they've kicked ass so far in the damn draft, dude. Like, holy crap! Like they made this Joe Douglas guy actually might be a pretty good GM.
Yeah, he's the best one they've had in a while. He got great training from Ozzie Newsome. He was in Baltimore as a scout for a long time, then went to Philly when they were actually going to that Super Bowl and winning that year. So he had a good career. He paid his dues, and he knows what he's doing. He learned from the Wizard of Oz, and you look at the first round, and then in the second round, Breece Hall, the running back at Iowa State, that wasn't necessarily a need, but that's an example of sticking to the value board. They moved up a couple spots, and you can make an argument that 4-pack they have so far is the best in the league so far.
Yeah, no, they've done a really good job, man. I hate to say it, and was Sauce's selection influenced by what Miami has done also in the offseason?
Yeah, I think so. I don't know if they'd admit it, but I absolutely think so. I believe Robert Salah was asked about that, and he gave a pat answer on it. But yeah, I mean, the way they covered last year, they were 32nd in the NFL in defense, and their pass defense was a big reason why. So it wasn't just the pass rush. They weren't playing the sticks properly. They needed to infuse that defensive back room with more talent, and getting Sauce Gardner will certainly help. And also, they added a couple safeties in free agency.
So we're talking with Dan Leberfeld, by the way. Jets Whispers, for you stinking Jets fans. You got to follow him because he's good and he covers the team, and it gives you great insight, break stories. You can also catch him on Sirius Weekly doing his thing. So make sure you follow him at Jet Whispers and Jets Confidential. You can also subscribe to it. So let me ask you something. I like what they've done so far early on in the draft, but are you a believer in the quarterback is the question. Is he the answer, or do you not know enough? You haven't seen enough to know if he's the answer. How do you view Zach Wilson?
Yeah, that's a great question, because no matter what they do in this draft and what they have done in free agency, if he's not the answer, they've got a problem, because it's a quarterback-driven league. So you could have a loaded team, but if the quarterback's not getting the job done, it really doesn't matter much. So I would say it's too early to tell. He's got a lot to work on this offseason. He's got to improve his field vision, his mechanics, his footwork. He's got some things to work on. He is working hard right now. We'll see if he can improve in those areas. But all that other work they did might not have the impact it potentially could if he is not the answer at quarterback.
Yeah, it reminds me a lot of what's going on down here. I'm a Tua believer. I think Brian Flores was a major screw-up last year in so many ways, and he couldn't even build an offensive staff. So I think he set the kid back, to be quite honest. I believe in him, and I think now that they've got the offensive staff supposedly, and if they fix the offense, I think he will deliver overall. But that's the question now is, so let me ask you, when you look at our guy here, are you a believer of Tua? Do you look at it the same way I do? Or do you think, nah, he's not the guy either way?
Well, it depends what your view is of his health situation. I've heard people argue that one of the issues
I don't care about the health stuff. Okay. That could happen to anybody, and it's understandable if people are nervous about his health. But can he play if he's healthy?
No, my question about the health was related to the hip. If some people argue that the last couple of years his hip still wasn't 100%, and it affected his deep ball. So if the hip is now in a better place, maybe the deep ball improves, because the big question around the league is how do you take advantage of Tyreek Hill with a quarterback who hasn't shown the ability to throw a great deep ball. Now, Tyreek is very good on underneath stuff and running after the catch, but that was the only thing I was saying about the health. I wasn't making excuses for the health. It was more, if the hip is better, maybe the deep ball is better.
By the way, he was, I think, second in the league in deep balls, the completion percentage. I don't know if you know that, but he doesn't get to throw a ton because he's on his ass more often than
the offensive line. There was this play against the Jets that really shocked me. It was in MetLife Stadium. He threw a pass down the left sideline. I believe it was Devontae Parker. And I was watching from the press box. I'm like, whoa, wait a minute.
Yeah.
It just didn't look like a professional deep ball.
Right. No, I know what you're saying. You're right. You're talking about the deep ball, or you're talking about the one that he short hopped it?
No, there was a pass down the left sideline, and Parker had the guy beat by a couple yards.
Oh,
and
yeah.
The pass, all he had to do was put some air under it, and it was very much underthrown. And watching from the press box, seeing up close this quarterback, I know it's just one play, but it made me think, wait a minute, what's going on with this guy's deep ball?
Right. No, I get you. I get you. That could be one of those. And again, was that in New York also?
Yeah.
Yeah. So obviously wind sometimes is, I don't know if it was a factor that day. I'm not exactly sure, but that is one of those things that people do talk about. Does he have enough arm in those days where there are winds, and can he go deep? And look, the other day they had a film where he threw a 70-yarder. You know what I mean? So it's not like he can't throw it. I think his problem has been, one, I think he'll be completely healthy finally now this year. But two, I don't think if you have space to set and throw in that pocket, it's hard to really get it, the right way. And I think that's his problem at times. He hasn't had the space he needs to really plant and throw at times. And I think that's kind of set him back with that offensive line. That's just me at times.
That's a good point. He's one of those quarterbacks. I'm not saying he's exactly like Ryan Fitzpatrick, but certain quarterbacks, in order to throw deep, they're not going to throw off platform. They need to have the mechanics and to set their feet and do everything right and throw it deep. They're not going to be like Josh Allen and throw off his back leg 50 yards. Yeah. So Tua is very much like that. If he can set his feet and have the right mechanics, he can throw deep.
Yeah, I think so too. I think when it's all said and done, I think you will. All right, Salah, what do you like about him? What are you concerned about after watching him for a year?
Well, I would say he's a great motivator. He's got great people skills. He connects with the players. They really play hard for him. And even though they had a bad season last year, it wasn't an effort thing. It was more a lack of talent. And also, it's at times the strategy could have been better. The X's and O's could have been better. I think people will argue now, and you're a big studier of the league, Big O, that Seattle defense, that Pete Carroll system, has become a little outdated with all the zone and relying on the front four to get pressure, and you don't have to pick defensive backs early in the draft because you're going to rely on the pressure and you're playing zone. I think that's kind of gone by the wayside. Look at what happened. They picked Sauce Gardner at 4. Back in the day with Seattle, they were hoping to get Richard Sherman types in the later rounds and have them play zone. So I think that all the disciples of Carroll, including Carroll himself, Carroll hired Sean Desai from Chicago to come in and add some of the concepts from his defense, because Pete realizes now that his system's becoming a little outdated. So all those disciples, Dan Quinn, when he got fired by Atlanta before he landed in Dallas, he did a deep dive on his system. He's a Pete Carroll disciple. Lovie Smith, another guy from that Rod Marinelli Tampa 2 scheme, he picked a corner 3rd in the draft. So how often do the Pete Carroll tree guys pick corners this early? I think that system's changing, and the Jets are an example of that under Robert Salah and his defensive coordinator, Jeff Ulbrich. I think they're going to change how they play on defense. Last year, the strategy at times on defense was not great, and it was because they were too simplistic.
That's pretty cool. I didn't know about all those ties and the and habitually what those ties lean to when it comes to the draft. That's good information there by Dan Leberfeld. By the way, Jets Whispers for you Jets fans, and of course you can follow him on Twitter at Jets Whispers and go to Jets Confidential so you can subscribe. Dan, by the way, before I let you go, biggest surprise for you in the draft so far, what is it?
I think obviously what the Patriots did in the first round. Well, I can update that now and say what they did in the second round too. I don't know what's going on in New England. I know they've had some turnover in their personnel department, obviously with Dave Ziegler going out to Las Vegas. But Strange is a guy that could have been picked later, as is the case with that Baylor receiver they got in the second round. Not sure what's going on there, so that was a big surprise. Jerry Jones picking that Tulsa lineman late in the first round, that was a little bit of a surprise as well. I don't think any of the quarterback stuff has been a surprise. And I think Malik Willis, I feel bad for him. I know he just got picked. But I think media hype had him overrated. I never saw him as a first-round quarterback. And so you see the kid sitting in the green room forever. That should never have happened. He went where he should have been picked, Big O. He went in the third round.
Well, here's the thing. Omar and I were talking about this. We had Omar Kelly on earlier, and I think the problem is habitually we always talk about quarterbacks, and teams always reach for quarterbacks. Every year they're reaching for guys that they should not take, and I think that's what we assumed, that they would continue to do that because they do it every year. They reach for guys when they shouldn't, and somehow or another this year – everybody decided to stay disciplined and said, "Yeah, no, we're really not fans of this group of quarterbacks." And by some weird thing, they've actually stuck to their guns.
Yeah, because reaching for quarterbacks can really set your organization back. I go back to when the Buffalo Bills picked E.J. Manuel in the first round, when he was clearly a second or third round pick, and it didn't work out for him. He's a good guy. He tried hard, but just when you pick a quarterback around it too early, it doesn't work out. You put too much pressure on him. It's bad for everybody. So, you're right. This year,
Ryan Gabbert, Ryan Tannehill. I mean, so many guys that you reach for early in the draft, top 10, and you're wondering why. And this happens all the time. And I think this was the one year we all got fooled because we normally expect people to reach for quarterbacks. No matter how – even if they reach from around early, we all say to ourselves, well, it's a quarterback. They all reach for quarterback. We kind of like give them a pass because that's the norm, that you're so desperate because it's a quarterback league.
Yeah, it's such a poorly scouted position. It really is. Of all the positions, it's the worst scouted position because you really don't, let's be honest, you don't know if a guy can read an NFL defense until he reads an NFL defense. Right. So you can go to the pro days, you can go to the combine, you can watch college film against awful secondaries, but until they come to the NFL and they're facing those sophisticated defenses and those much better secondaries than they faced in college, you don't know if they can do it until they do it.
By the way, Gary Hadida says, Big O, Devontae Parker didn't play against the Jets in New York last season. Can you please ask him what he's talking about? Is that true?
I didn't remember the receiver. I thought it might have been Devontae Parker. It was down the left sideline.
Oh, you're talking about Waddle, bro. You're talking about the Waddle throw on the left sideline. I know what you're talking about.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes. That he caught it, that he had to slow down, and he actually bodied the guy, and he still caught the ball. I know what you're talking about. Yes, it was the Waddle. It was the Waddle play.
Okay, sorry about that. I forgot the receiver, but it was down the left sideline. That I remember.
Yeah, it was Waddle. It was Waddle, the one you're talking about. Yeah. Yeah, it was a completion, but it was slightly underthrown, and then Waddle did a great job of By the way, that does happen to a lot of quarterbacks, that they underthrow a little bit, and the job of the receiver is to either adjust and catch it or play defensive back and bat it away. That's kind of their job anyway. That happens to every quarterback, I think.
Yeah, right? No question about it. I'm a Tua. I like Tua also. I like he's a guy. He's a leader. I think the players like him. They'll follow him. The only question was about the arm, and also, being 6 feet tall. It's a struggle for so many guys. Malik Willis slipped for that reason. And you look at Baker Mayfield, one of his biggest problems is he can't see over the line. I know people always say you throw through passing lanes. Easier said than done. Kyler Murray's having the same problem.
Well, the key is you have to go. Okay, so now you gave us the insight on the tree for Carroll and the habitual things that go on. I'll give you something. The New Orleans Saints. One of the reasons why Drew Brees was exceptional is because Sean Payton understood that his centers and his guards have to be exceptional. And if you look, they really didn't go out of their way most of the time to draft tackles high. Usually, they were tackles that were taken later on in the draft, and then they became pretty good players for them, like Teron Armstead, guys like that they pick them later. But they always either went in free agency or in the draft high. And you notice their centers and their guards were exceptional. Why? Because Sean Payton knew that with a short quarterback, the pocket cannot collapse. The second the pocket collapses for a short quarterback, it's over, because he cannot look over all of that. And if he's not a really athletic guy, he's not going to be able to run out of those kind of problems either. So you've got to be strong in the middle of the line. So if you have a short quarterback, and I don't care who it is, your centers and your guards have to be exceptional, because they're the ones that create those passing lanes that you're talking about, because the tackles already open up automatically with the defensive ends. But if your guards and centers are crumbling down in the middle, it's over for your quarterback. But if they're holding up, then they're holding up the passing lanes. And then that's what allows him to make those throws. But if your passing lanes are constantly crumbling, short quarterbacks, no matter who they are, will struggle passing from the pocket.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I just want to say something before you go. I know exactly where you are. It's very close to the Palms, right?
Yes, we're right by the Rio and the Palms, yes.
Yeah,
right
because when I would get on the highway there, I'd always see Tommy Rockers. Yeah, Tommy Rockers. As I was getting on the highway, coming from the Palms, getting on the highway there, I always saw the place, and I go, that looks like a really good place.
It is. We had the Raiderettes here. We had the Modelo girls here. We had mariachi bands here. We've had a whole bunch of Dolphin fans come through so far in the first 2 days. So it's been cool, man. It's been cool. I mean, this is a job. How about that? You know what I'm saying?
Right? Well, I'm jealous. I wish I was out there. It's freezing. For some reason, it's still freezing here in New Jersey. I don't know why. We should be past that in late April.
Yeah, you should be, man. Damn. That's crazy stuff. Dan, as always, you're a stud, my brother. I appreciate you taking the time. Great conversation as always.
Anytime, Big O. Enjoy your time out there.
You got it, baby. You're the best. There you go. Dan Leberfeld, Jets Confidential. Yes, he works for the enemy, but we still love him like family.